Welcome to this, our first episode of the Business of Advertising and Marketing, or as we like to call it, BAM. In this series of programs, we explore the main issues facing executives and leaders in the fast-changing advertising and marketing industries. Everything from strategies, brands, capturing eyeballs, and the impact of technology. Joining me is Thebe Ikalafeng, founder and chairman of Brand Africa, founder and CEO of the Brand Leadership Group, and also the chancellor of Sol Plaatje University and professor of practice at the University of Johannesburg Business School. Thebe, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Gary, and congratulations on your show.
No, thank you, and well, most of all, congratulations on being called the Brand Architect of Africa.
Oh, thank you. They've been very kind.
No, Thebe, you're an absolute establishment in the marketing and advertising environment. Brand Africa is so iconic, and you set it up, have built it over the past 2 years. And just recently in Addis Ababa, you had the top 100 brands for Africa. And where are we as far as brands in Africa are concerned, and what it is that's important to companies looking at building their brands and maintaining reputation in Africa?
Well, it's a very interesting dichotomy, if you will. 80% of the Africans in the survey say they believe in Africa, but only 15% buy Africa. So if you look at the top 100 most admired brands in the continent, only 15% are made in Africa. So the journey is still quite far. We've been doing this for 16 years as part of Brand Africa, and we've never crossed 15. On average, for the first 10 years of those, we're around 20%, but that's only because there was an overread in the first year. But now we're in 30 countries, which collectively account for 85% of the GDP and 85% of the population. So the numbers are very stable. So we are not far. We're not far. There's glimmers of hope and light, but we're not that far.
There are some South African brands very well respected throughout Africa, and we'll come back to the 15% and the impact or influence of global brands versus local brands. But there are some South African brands doing really well in Africa, but there are also some strong brands globally that, without actually much African presence, are really maintaining a momentum and presence and likability on the continent. What is it about brands that help to create that loyalty and the connection with consumers?
Well, the interesting thing about the study, and because we'll help explain what you just said as well, is that it's an admiration study. It's not a usage study. And when it comes to admiration, what do consumers have access to? They've got access to television. They've got access to social media. So that's why now you begin to see brands like Dolce & Gabbana and Louis Vuitton in the list. And you say, but Dolce & Gabbana is only in one shop in Sandton, and Louis Vuitton only one shop in Sandton and one in Cape Town, if you will. Because when it comes to an admiration, consumers, they project what they will buy if their money came right. That's, I think it's Kanye West who says, "Wait till my money comes right," and then these are the brands that they will buy. So what we're seeing that in the studies and any other, not just the study, many others, there's multiple studies around the country certainly, and the continent. Ours is the most definitive, which speak to the idea of what consumers aspire to have. And when you contrast that with the brands in from Africa, the brands that they aspire to internationally are, if you will, the aspirational brands, the luxury brands, the motor vehicle brands, the technology brands. But when it comes to the continent, they are more into the practical brands, the brands which help them to do something. So that's why you'll see a brand like MTN in 17 or so market is the number one brand from Africa, the highest ranking brand in the top 100 at number 11, then followed by Dangote as well at number 30. And Dangote is an industrial brand. What does Dangote do in the continent? They make mealie meal, they make flour, they make oil, they do petrol, they have cement. So it's an industrial brand that helps consumers in the continent to do something. Then you go further down, you go at number 53, you get a brand like Ethiopian Airlines, which is the biggest airline out of the continent, over 150 fleet, and they go to almost everywhere in the continent and almost everywhere in the world. So you'll see that the brands that Africans are attached to in the continent are the brands which, if you will, are developmental brands, the brands which help them to progress. Whereas the brands, the non-African brands, are the brands, the self-expression brands, the brands they use to say, I have arrived or I belong as well.
Brand marketers or brand leadership in the country watching this interview right now, asking themselves, okay, it's all great to talk about brand and you know, access to consumers and admiration and all that, but at the end of the day, the critical issue is great marketing managers or CMOs in organizations that understand how to close the gap. Now, you're doing an interesting, at Africa Leadership Group, you're doing an interesting, or you've done an interesting survey and also a listing of truly influential CMOs. What is it that they do differently, you know, from others that maybe set them apart from the rest?
So what's so interesting out of our Africa CMO 100 list, which we also launched in Ethiopia recently as well, what's so interesting about it is that 62% of them are women. And if you look at 31% of the dominant category, it's all around banking, around insurance, around it's all around money and safety, money and security, if you will. So I think what they do well, the CMOs in the list, what they do well, the CMOs that we've selected, if you look at all of them are in the industries which, again, aligned with the brands from the continent. Either the brands, CMOs of brands which change people's lives, which improve people's lives, or are the CMOs of brands. Matter of fact, all of them actually. If you look at all of the CMOs, there's no CMO in our list who comes from luxury brands, who comes from anything else other than the brands which are practical. And it's the gamut. It's the Absa banks CMOs. It's the Net banks CMOs. So financial services are quite strong on the list. I think what they do different is the CMOs that are behind some of the best brands are CMOs who are invested in the brands. They understand consumer insights. They are very innovative in terms of the solutions that they bring forward to connect with consumers. But most importantly is they are also very relevant. They speak the language and are connected to the consumers on the ground.
Speaking about that connection, one of the great changes in the world over the past 5 to 10 years is the advent of digital technology and also things like AI, artificial intelligence. Many say a positive and a negative. Where are we in terms of how technology is being used, not only by CMOs, but also by organizations and brands globally to try and penetrate markets and to try and get their brands and message out there?
Well, let's look at maybe South Africa as a sample, because South Africa is the dominant marketing country in the continent, with 31%, I think 39% of the CMOs coming from Southern Africa, 31 from South Africa. And if you look at the top 100 brands as well, South Africa is a top leader in that space. So let's look at that. Where are they putting the money? In South Africa alone spends over $50 billion. $50 billion rand rather, in marketing advertising, and about 30% of it is on the traditional platforms, which is our television, if you will. And then, interestingly, 20% are in the digital space, and it's rising at 12% annually. So that space is rising quite rapidly. Matter of fact, if you look at just globally, social media alone accounts for about 20% of spend. Social media. Now we're talking the screen, that's the screen time, because I think there's a recognition that a whole lot of us, a lot of young people, old people, as everybody else, has got a much personal relationship now with their screen. And as a result, the money is shifting there and moving fast. Matter of fact, it's projected that by 2030, it may even be as high as 50% of all marketing. Now you've got the new guy called AI, who's completely going to change a couple of things. I mean, I think it's a bit of a threat to the creative industry, but maybe also to the marketing industry, because in the advertising space, they're like, so what's there left for us? I don't have to write copy anymore. AI will do it for me. I don't have to write the headlines. AI will do it for me. I don't have to do research. AI will do it for me. They'll analyze the data for me. But I think there's a new study by Dentsu, which comes up and which just released last year. A study across CMOs, and they looked at it and they spoke to CMOs to try and understand the role of AI in their lives. And as many as 90% of them say, AI is part of my daily workflow. I can't function without it. But what AI cannot do is the cultural nuance. What AI can do is to bring that human feel to work. So there's still a great scope of work left. What AI has done, it has just made it faster for you to work, but you still have to carry the heavy load in terms of now connecting, because AI can't connect the way you and I can from a personal and human perspective.
I think perhaps in conclusion, Thebe, the CMOs looking at this interview, and you're Mr. Brand Architect in Africa, understanding the environment. What is it you think that in essence, that the CMO and the marketing and advertising people can do correctly to try and balance that traditional versus old media penetration in markets, consumers, and again, understanding the different audience segmentations is within that. We're not only talking brand, but reputation, and as you were saying, likability and admiration.
Well, I think at the end of the day, marketing hasn't changed much. Maybe the tools have changed to engage. Marketing always starts with understanding the insights, the consumers, understand the landscape, the people that you're trying to serve. Secondarily, you have to have clear value propositions that engage and are relevant to them. That's still marketing 101. And the third important thing is how to engage with them, which is where the biggest problem, the biggest changes have come from a media and communication perspective. So what they need to be doing now is they need to spend a lot more time being intimate with the customers, not just en masse as they used to, but now they have to be talking to me individually, because now what AI and our technology has enabled us is to have a personal conversation with Thebe. But it's almost like a personal conversation with Thebe, but then massify it. So I think to me that is the way we are headed now, where you are not going to be selling to me directly, and you're going to be creating not just communication, you may even create the products that suit me as a marketer. And this may not be as novel as it sounds, because many years ago, maybe 25 or so ago, brands like Nike, where I was CMO, already had Nike ID, where you could customize your own shoes. So that's the one thing. And then you also remember here in South Africa as well, we had a bank called 2020, which was the foundation of digital banking and all those. These ideas, however much we change, the more we get back to the beginning. I think it's like what Muhammad Ali said, and he was much older, and they asked him about himself, about what has changed. He says, the older I become, the more I become myself. I think that's the same with marketing. The more we change, the more we get back to the basics. For any CMO out there, for any young marketer and old marketer, it is always about getting back to the basics.
Oh, beautiful words. We're going to have to leave it there. Thebe, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Gary.
That was Thebe Ikalafeng, founder and chairman of Brand Africa, chancellor of Sol Plaatje University, and professor of practice at the University of Johannesburg Business School. Stay tuned with us for more business insights to follow right here, only on Business Day.